Hello everyone. Today we will discuss about the skin. So skin is a sensory organ as well as excretory organ as well as functionally it has so many functions. Okay. Today we will discuss about the skin. What is skin and what about the skin? Okay. So what are the functions of the skin? What is the structure of the skin? How the glands are formed in the skin and what are the different kinds of the glands are present in the skin and what are the different kinds of the functions are there and how it maintains homeostatic process. All this we will discuss in this skin lesson. And first come to this skin. If you see the structure of the skin, there are three layers are present in the skin. Okay, so in that the first one is epidermis, dermis, and another one is subcutaneous. Epidermis, dermis, and subcutaneous layer. And thus, the first one is epidermis layer. This epidermis layer is the superficial part and it consists 5 layers. Epidermis part consists 5 layers. Okay, that is the first one is stratum corneum, and second one is stratum lucidum, and third one is stratum granulosum, and fourth one is stratum spinosum, and next one is the last layer in the epidermis is stratum germanium or the stratum basilomatous. Okay, 5 layers are present in the skin. 5 layers are present in the epidermis. Okay, right. And in this epidermis, 5 layers: stratum corneum, stratum lucidum, stratum granulosum, stratum spinosum, stratum germanium. 5 layers are present. Okay, right. What is stratum corneum? Corneum in the cells. The dead cells are present in this layer. And next one is stratum lucidum in the sense. So the matured cells are present in this, and at the same time the layer, in this layer, the cells which are matured and the functionally this provides oilness of the skin. Okay, it maintains oilness and the dryness whatever it is required. So that maintains by this stratum lucidum layer. Okay, and next one is stratum granulosum. Granules are present in this layer, and whatever the cells are produced from the below layers, okay, those are pushed into the superficial layers like stratum lucidum and stratum corneum. Stratum corneum is completely dead cells are present in this. Okay, and next one is stratum spinosum. Okay, the cells are reproduced in this layer. Okay, and next one is stratum germanium. The cells are produced, skin cells are produced in this layer. Okay, like that, these are 5 layers are present in the epidermis layer of the skin. Its epidermis is a superficial layer of the skin. And next one is dermis. And this, if you see this diagram, we'll come to know all the parts of the skin. Okay, hair follicle and the hair root and the 3 types of the layers like epidermis, dermis, and subcutaneous layer, and what are the glands present in this like epicrine, apocrine, and sebaceous glands, and as well as sweat glands, all are present in this. Okay, and next one is come to the dermis layer. This dermis is formed by the superficial papillary layer in us. Okay, and this dermis consists 2 types of the glands, and hair root is present in the dermis layer, and the subcutaneous is completely arteries and the veins are supplied to the remaining upper part of the skin like dermis layer and the epidermis layer. Okay, and next one is it is a reticular layer. Okay, the dermis is formed by the 2 types of the layer. One is superficial papillary layer and another one is reticular layer. If you see the appendages, so what are the attachments to the skin in the sense? One is the inside is the skeletal muscle and the hair root follicles, and the glands like sebaceous glands and the sweat glands are appendages of the skin. Okay, and next, if you see the color of the skin is mainly depends upon the pigmentation and the hemoglobin present in the skin, so in the blood. Okay, the pigmentation is formed by the melanin, is a pigment which is secreted by the stratum spinosum layer. Okay, and this hemoglobin, if the hemoglobin is more in the blood, the color of the skin will become black. Okay, and next one is, if the hemoglobin is less, if the person is like anemic, there is pale color is present on the skin. Okay, and next one is, if you see the functions of the skin, the functions of the skin includes protective function. It gives the protection from the UV rays of the sun and dust particles and the foreign bacteria and the foreign elements, whatever, and from all those, so we'll get protect from the skin. And next is sensory function, like touch. Okay, so and next one is storage function, and after that synthetic function, it synthesizes melanin, and the regulation of the body temperature is also one of the most important function of the skin. Okay, and next one is regulation of the water and electrolyte balance. If the water is more in the body, it is excreted as in the form of the sweat by the sweat glands. Okay, and like electrolytes is also maintained by this, by the excretion of the electrolytes. And next one is excretory function. Okay, the waste materials and like sebum and the sweat are excreted by the glands of the skin. Okay, and next absorptive function and secretory function, and then glands of the skin. There are two types of the glands are present in this. So one is sebaceous glands and another one is sweat glands. Okay, sebaceous glands which secretes the sebum, and sweat glands are again in two types. One is eccrine glands and another one is apocrine glands. The glands which are formed individually on the skin, pores like structure, those are called as eccrine glands. And the apocrine glands in the sense, okay, so with the hair follicle, okay, the pores are present with the hair follicle, those are called as apocrine glands. Okay, if you see the difference between the two glands, sweat glands and the sebaceous glands, so the distribution of the eccrine and the apocrine glands, if you see individually, okay, in that throughout the body, eccrine glands are throughout the body are present, and apocrine glands are present only. So the areas like axilla, pubis, areola and the umbilicus. Okay, and next one is opening, exterior through the sweat pore, individual pore it is, and whereas come to the apocrine glands, as we told, okay, so that is into the hair follicle. Opening of the gland is in the hair follicle, whereas come to the apocrine glands. Okay, and next one is period of the function starts throughout the lifetime of the eccrine glands, whereas come to the apocrine glands, it starts from the puberty itself. Okay, and next one is secretion, clear and watery eccrine glands, and thick and milky secretion from the apocrine glands. Okay, and next one is regulation of the body temperature, play an important role in case of the body temperature regulation. And whereas come to the this, it does not, apocrine glands does not play any role in the maintenance of the body temperature. Okay, and next one is conditions when secretion increases. If the secretion is increased, the temperature and the during the emotional conditions, whereas come to the eccrine glands. Okay, and only during the emotional conditions in case of the apocrine glands. Okay, and next one is the control of the secretory activity in case of the eccrine glands is under the nervous control, and whereas come to the apocrine glands, so that is in under the hormonal control. Apocrine glands hormonal control and eccrine glands nervous control it is. Okay, and next one is nerve supply, sympathetic cholinergic fibers supplies to the eccrine glands, and whereas come to the sympathetic adrenergic nerve fibers are supplies to the apocrine gland. Next is body temperature. Body temperature is depends upon the conditions, like whatever the conditions are inside. Okay, so the normal body temperature is 96.8 degree Fahrenheit or 37 degree centigrade. Okay, right, here this upon this depends upon this, there are two types of the animals are present. One is homeothermic and another one is poikilothermic. Poikilothermic in the sense the cold-blooded elements and the homeothermic in the sense, so they can control their blood temperature and the body temperature. Okay, right. And the body temperature is mainly, so is the most important thing for the all metabolic actions and whatever the metabolic reactions going on inside, and that everything is depends upon this body temperature. Okay, and the normal body temperature is 96.8 degree Fahrenheit and 37 degrees centigrade. Okay, and the temperature in different parts of the body, you will see in the oral cavity is the normal body temperature as I told. Okay, and in the axilla plus 2 degrees centigrade, and in case of the anal canal plus 2 degrees centigrade, and in the the parts where it possible, okay, or like it is somewhat various than the normal body temperature. Okay, and this variation of the body temperature is because of the what heat balance. This heat balance is mainly depends upon the heat gain mechanism and the heat loss mechanism. If the body temperature is decreased, immediately there is working of the heat gain mechanism. And if the body temperature is increased, heat loss mechanism. Like that, there are two types of the mechanisms: heat gain mechanism when the body temperature is decreased, and heat loss mechanism when the body temperature is increased. Okay, in this condition, this regulation of the body temperature by the two types of the centers, one is heat loss centers and another one is heat gain centers. These centers are present in the hypothalamus. That's why the hypothalamus is called as temperature center or the heat centers. Okay, heat gain centers or the heat loss centers are present in the hypothalamus. Okay, right, come to this. When the normal body temperature is present, that is obviously right, body is in subtract. Okay, when it is decreased, then immediately stimulation of when the body temperature is decreased, immediately there is stimulation of the heat gain centers. By the stimulation of the heat gain centers, there are two types of the activities are present. The first one is shivering in the body. By the shivering of the body, immediately there is increase in the heat production. By the shivering of the body, what happens? Immediately there is muscle contraction occurs. By that, increase in the heat production and it comes to the normal. And another type of mechanism in the heat gain, by the stimulation of the heat gain mechanism, increase in the sympathetic activity and immediately there is increased adrenaline secretion and for the metabolic rate. And obviously the metabolic rate also increased. By that, the cutaneous vasoconstriction and the decreased sweating is decreased, and the cutaneous vasoconstriction and the increased body temperature and increased heat production and decreased heat loss. Because of all these conditions, the body comes to the normal position or the normal body temperature. Again it maintains when the decreased body temperature is present. And when the normal body temperature goes on increase, immediately there is the activation of the heat loss centers. Activation of the heat loss centers, and there is no shivering at all, and there is decrease in the heat production and immediately it comes to the normal. And another mechanism is inhibition of the sympathetic activity. It is quite opposite to the heat gain mechanism only. Okay, inhibition of the sympathetic activity, and by that decreased adrenaline secretion and the metabolic rate, and by that cutaneous vasodilatation occurs and the metabolic rate and the increased sweating. The body sweating is increased and immediately there is increase in the heat loss, and by that the body comes to the normal temperature. This is what the mechanism for the heat gain and the heat loss mechanism. And come to see this hypothalamus, by the vasodilatation and the diaphoresis, and there is cooling of the blood, and by that the temperature is decreased, and when there is warming occurs, and then the vasoconstriction and shivering immediately by the hypothalamus, and it comes to the normal. Decreased activity and at the same time increased activity. That is what going on in the body. So all this is because of the hypothalamus. And next one is, if you see the applied factors, this one is hypothermia and another one is hypothermia. Hyperthermia in the sense fever it is. Fever in the sense increased body temperature is called as fever. Okay, this fever is in three types: continuous fever, remittent fever and intermittent fever. Three types of the fevers: continuous, intermittent and remittent. Depends upon the temperature increase and decrease. Okay, so the continuous fever in the sense once the increased temperature is there, once the temperature is increased, it is continuous. That is called as continuous fever. And remittent fever in the sense, once the temperature is increased and it goes on increase and it comes on decrease, but it not comes to the normal. Increase and decrease is there, but it not comes to the normal range. That is called as remittent fever. And intermittent fever in the sense, okay, temperature is increased and decreased to the normal body temperature, and again it goes on increase and decrease and comes to the normal and increased, decreased to the normal temperature. That type of fever is called as intermittent fever. And another one is hypothermia. Hypothermia in the sense, so decreased body temperature is called as hypothermia. These are the applied factors or the applied physiology for the body temperature. This is what about the skin and the body temperature regulation and all about this, and according to my knowledge. And thank you very much.